What's up, guys? Welcome back to the $1 Million Show. This will be our 4th episode. Sorry we took a little break, but we're excited to be back. Unfortunately, my co-host is still recovering from Thanksgiving, so I don't think I'm going to be able to be joined by him today. I think he's having a little excursion in the bathroom, but let's get straight to it. What we got today? Nice to see you join us. Our first segment today is going to be our top 5 most loved and hated athletes of all time, with the exception of it not being on one of our favorite teams. So like Panthers, Carolina, App State, and then for him,
Virginia.
He likes
Buccaneers.
80 million teams. So, but
small list to choose from for me.
We're gonna start out with hated. And at 5th, this is one that's going to cause controversy, but my 5th is Justin Thomas. And the reason why is because in golf is a game of etiquette. Golf is a game of, it's a gentleman's game. You're supposed to have great pride in the sport and treat it with respect. When I hear Justin Thomas mic'd up talking to his caddy after he hits a terrible shot, that makes me want to punch. Want to punch a hole in the screen.
I think it makes it entertaining.
If you hit a terrible shot, you should blame that on yourself and only yourself.
It's all his caddy's fault.
No. Okay, that's my 5th, and I don't like that he yells out F-bombs all the time. I just don't think that's proper etiquette.
My 5th is Kyle Busch. He's off the racetrack. I mean, he's very disliked.
That's Kurt. Kurt's the one that's controversial.
I mean, so is Kyle. Kyle's a dirty racer. Everybody's most hated probably Kyle Busch or his brother Kurt.
Yeah, they do call
both of them are both controversial. And then my 4th, I'm gonna go with Kyle Singler, super pale Duke guy from the early 2010s.
Yeah.
Everybody hated him. He was a great. I'm not gonna lie, he's a great college player, but I couldn't stand him. I even wished injury on him. I'm not gonna lie, which I don't do often.
Yeah, you know, number 4 for me. He's just. I don't know. He was just always tripping. Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen.
2 dookies.
I mean, I can't stand Grayson Allen. He obviously. I don't usually feel for Duke players, but at first I still can't stand him. But at first I didn't have a heart for him at all. But it eventually grew to the point where it was pretty noticeable that he had something going on with him mentally. So I kind of felt for him because I don't think that he was meaning to do what he was doing. But it's not hard to stop yourself from
he's
tripping someone.
I mean, he's super dirty. I couldn't stand him. He beat Virginia on a buzzer beater where he clearly traveled. Ref didn't call it. That's just that's what Duke gets. I mean, they whatever they want in their home gym.
All right, number 3, stand on basketball. I'm sorry, Mr. Zeb Harry, but Russell Westbrook. I can't stand Russell Westbrook. He is a showboat. He does not care about his teammates.
Mr. Turnover.
Stat
patter.
Yes, he's a stat patter, and I think that is the main reason why, as good as he is statistically, he will never. I don't think he deserves a Hall of Fame spot.
I don't.
Even with
some more than what
even with 2 MVPs, but it was pretty obvious that I know him. Like whenever Durant left OKC, you saw how much dislike they had for each other, and then now you see it literally took a season and a half for James Harden to not like him.
Yeah.
So I just think that he is a level below of who my number 1 is that you'll see shortly. But
yeah, I got number 3, Andre Kirilenko, former small forward, AK-47 for the Jazz. I don't know why I could never stand the guy. He's a solid player, but I mean I've always hated him. And my number 2, also Russell Westbrook. He's not good at all.
Yeah.
I can't stand him. He celebrates so much, pads his stats the whole game, doesn't care about winning, and he hasn't won.
Number 2 for me, this is going to cause a ton of controversy, but it's Floyd Mayweather. And I don't like Floyd because I don't like how much he runs his mouth. I know that he can because of his record, but if you go back and watch Floyd box, he is not an intimidating beast of a boxer that the world has made him out to be. He's 51-0, and he might have, it's in the area of 15 to 20 knockouts. So that tells you he is not. There's people out there that could beat him. I just think that he does a wonderful job at scheduling fights. Also, Manny Pacquiao beat him several years back, and this is not just me saying that. There were multiple sports reporters and people who were there that were upset with the outcome of that fight. And I just don't like how much he blows his money. I just don't think it's a good image. I don't think that he's...
If you got it, spend it.
I don't think he's humble at all.
You can't spend it when you're gone.
I know, but I don't think he's humble. And then number 1, it should be everybody's number 1, Kyrie Irving.
Forgot about him.
Kyrie is the biggest jerk in the history of sports, in my opinion. It's not even on a sports level. It's when he talks about real world issues. Like he said, whenever he left Cleveland and started playing bad in Boston, he had to do his whole world was flat thing to keep himself relevant. He was interviewed around Christmas time because he was playing on Christmas Day, and he said he thinks it's stupid to celebrate Christmas as a holiday, and he does not consider Christmas as a holiday.
Did you see yesterday he didn't do his media thing because he said he's going to let his game do the talking?
Exactly.
I think the game's going to do the talking,
but
it's going to talk him into maybe 8th place in the East.
Yes, but Irving, I just don't appreciate his character. I think that he is nothing without LeBron, and I love LeBron, but I actually don't have him in my top 5. But I think that he won't win another ring without LeBron. Durant is great, but he's not LeBron. And also, my honorable mention for most hated was Drew Lock. I don't know. He's a nice guy, but I just don't really like him.
My most hated, yours leads perfectly into mine. It's LeBron James. I mean, he's a terrific player, terrific guy off the court, does a lot for kids, but I cannot stand the guy. He makes up excuses for why he loses. He flops. He lies about getting cramps.
So James Harden doesn't flop?
James Harden does flop.
Okay.
I didn't say...
Durant doesn't flop?
Do you see him on my most loved? Do you see either of those on my most loved?
I don't want to look at it. I want to be surprised.
Yeah, neither of them are on there. I don't like them either. And Durant doesn't really flop. LeBron's the worst flopper. That's why they call him LaFlop.
Oh no.
And I just can't stand him. He beats up on the Hornets year in, year out, and I don't like him. Hate him.
All right, this moves into our most loved, where I think it's you. You start out with 5
first. Number 5, I got Julian Edelman.
Oh yeah.
He's a great example of hard work pays off. He undrafted. Or he might have been drafted late round, but slow guy, not too much speed. He's not the best athlete, but he still gets it done. Got 3 rings, and it's because of hard work.
All right, I'm gonna start out with my honorable mention. Apparently picking family members was against the rules, so I didn't pick Ricky Fowler because of that. But he's honorable mention. Obviously, got to pull for your cousin. But number 5. Conor McGregor. He is really controversial. Obviously, really at one point had, I feel like, all of sports in his hands for like a year and a half. Like he was everywhere, all over SportsCenter, on TV and on social media accounts. I love Irish accents. I love his character. And the other thing is I really appreciate humans who mess up and are able to admit that they did and move on to a better path. And that's what he's done as of recent. He was a hothead, throwing chairs at buses.
Fighting people in the streets.
Yeah, and that's not something that I want him to do. But I love his character in and out of the ring, especially now that he has realized that he did wrong and he is proving to people that he cares about himself and he wants to change. So I appreciate about Conor.
And was that your 5?
That was 5th.
All right.
Yeah.
Number 4, I got Conor McGregor. You know, he's making a comeback. You'll see him in January. But, I mean, I forgot about the family member thing. We're both Irish, so there might be some ancestry there. But
now
I apologize.
I will say, I also, another controversial guy, I like Jake Paul. And if they were to happen to Vox, I would have
McGregor would pass.
I'm not saying,
He would
I think
make him pass
McGregor,
out.
I think it would be a good fight.
He'd knock him out.
I think it'd be a good fight, but
2 minutes.
I don't know who I'd pull for. Because
I'd pull for McGregor.
it's kind of fun to pull for a YouTuber, you know?
Not really. I hate Jake Paul.
I don't know. Number 4 for
He's
me.
number 1 most hated, Jake Paul.
Number 4 for me, Charles Barkley. I loved his play on the court. He played a big man's role in a short body. He was short and plump. I mean, he had muscle build up, and he was in better shape in the NBA, obviously, than he is now, because now he literally looks like a donut hole.
Yeah.
But he always had some fat on his stomach, which I really liked. And every single time I've seen old interviews of him, the E60 on the Dream Team for the U.S. Olympics shows, you know, really, really funny sides of him. I love him. I think he's hilarious. I would have put Shaq on this list. I was deciding between the two, but I just prefer Barkley a little bit more.
Yeah. My number 3 is Klay Thompson. If you watch his interviews, he always is coming up with some funny one-liners. You know, he's a hard worker. He just got another season-ending injury, his 2nd in a row. You got to hope to see him come back stronger than ever. But you know, he's just a hard-working guy, great shooter, great player, great defender, and absolutely. I hope he comes back strong.
All right, number 3 for me. This is a new incoming guy for me, and he's already in my top 5 ever. And it's Justin Herbert.
Oh my goodness, he's awful. He's terrible.
I love Justin Herbert. I love him because if you see his interviews, he's a really awkward guy.
Absolutely.
He looks like somebody that you'd look out in the streets and be like he looks like a crackhead, which I find hilarious. He has a rocketive arm. He makes good throws out of the pocket. I have him on my fantasy team, and last week, ever since I've had him, last week he had 17 points, and that was his worst week of the year, which is I think amazing. And
that's solid. He's a good fantasy quarterback, but I wouldn't want him on my team.
I think he's a great guy. I think that there is nothing that he's going to bring to the locker room that could potentially be issues. He is coachable, and he also has game. And I think eventually when the Chargers get their head coach out of there, he definitely has a chance to prevail and be good in the near future.
That goes with my number 2, Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert's running back. He's the reason that offense goes. And when he was out, they did not win too much. I think they went like 1-6. He was back last week. Great fantasy running back. I got him last year. I got him this year. Stuck through his injury, and he's going to win me the championship in fantasy football this year because he is a beast.
Number 2 for me, I absolutely love this guy, Jeremy Lin.
Insanity, I like it.
He wrote a book that I actually read in 3rd or 4th grade that I really enjoyed, and ever since then I started to watch him. He does a lot of great charity work back home where he grew up in
China?
No, I think it might have been the Philippines.
I'm not sure.
We could be totally wrong, but wherever he grew up, he does a lot of charity work. He goes back home. He was on the Hornets for a while. I just feel like that when a player like Lynn, there are multiple players that will show outbursts of potential when they receive a shot. And then for some odd reason, those people are the ones that don't get to keep playing. Like Tebow. Like, he was completely forgotten in the NFL. And people act like he just didn't go to the playoffs with a Broncos team that did not have a very good surrounding cast. And although he may have not been somebody that makes Patrick Mahomes caliber plays, and he might not have the brains of a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers, he won enough for them to get to the playoffs, and then just like that, his career was shut down.
Yeah.
So that's like kind of like Lynn. Obviously, he's not as impressive an athlete as Tim Tebow, but I just feel like he should have received more opportunity.
Yeah. My number one, the Mamba, Kobe Bryant, my favorite athlete of all time, hardest working athlete of all time, and he won championships. He waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning, just getting working until.
I think Jimmy Butler gives him a run for his money.
Jimmy Butler, that's just a different conversation. They're on different levels.
And Jordan was just as hard as a worker,
but
I mean,
no, I think, my opinion, Kobe Bryant, hardest working athlete and top 3 player of all time. We can have that debate some other time. And I think him in the 2000s, he early 2000 success, late 2000 success with the little rivalry with the Celtics, which my honorable mention, Kevin Garnett, absolute beast. I think he also had some longevity. He started in the 90s and he was a great player until he retired, really.
Yeah.
Went out with a 60-point game.
Very true. Like Kobe, everybody knows that there's nobody that's been as close to Jordan's play style and game as Kobe. But I'm not saying this just to disagree with him, but I personally believe that he's the 4th best Laker ever. And I think that
who's better
in no specific order, Shaq, Kareem, and Magic. And I'm not the only one who would say that.
Best Laker of all time, he's got to be him or Magic.
Okay,
maybe Kareem. You can't put Shaq above
the
him.
argument that
Shaq's career as a Laker was like 5-8 years.
But the argument that I make, Jackson, is that if you look at the finals that they won together, Shaq averaged no less than 30 points, averaged no less than 15 rebounds.
And then he won.
Dominated.
And then he won without Shaq.
He dominated. I understand that because
he carried that team.
Pau Gasol,
That.
Derek Fisher, all these other all-stars that were on his team. But what I'm saying is that there is a Shaq without Kobe. There is no Kobe without Shaq.
Yes, there is.
Kobe would have had 2 rings. He would have had 2 rings if it wasn't for Shaq averaging more than 30 points and 15 rebounds.
He would have had one more rings.
And the 3 finals they went back to back in. All right, my number 1 athlete of all time is Shaun White. I don't even need to explain it.
He's a legend.
He's a legend. Redhead, long curly hair. Whenever he was in his prime. If you go back. My favorite interview in the history of sports is he was like a 16, 17-year-old kid and won a gold medal in the Olympics. And they asked him, like, what are you going to do to celebrate? And then he's like, I don't know, probably pop open an ice cold Mountain Dew. I love that interview because everybody's expected to be like, oh, like go crazy at a club or, drink champagne or whatever. But nah, he's just going to drink the Mountain Dew.
Have a good time.
And he's now actually a TikTok influencer.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I'll keep up with that TikTok crap.
Yeah, I deleted the app.
That's good.
All right, well, that wraps up our top 5 most loved and hated athletes of all time. And we'll see you in the next segment.
What's up? We're going to build our perfect fantasy lineup for Week 13. Anybody we can have.
All right, I'll start out. I have Deshaun Watson, and usually my choice, just the safest bet would be Mahomes or maybe a Russell Wilson, but he's like the 3rd guy when it comes to fantasy purposes. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers has had his fair share of great games, Justin Herbert, but I think Watson, even though he has a tough matchup with Indianapolis, I just think that the Texans have started to find their own the last couple weeks. If they went out, they would be 9-7, which in years past has usually allowed a playoff berth. Most likely is unlikely this year, but I think that they still have something to play for. They're not mathematically out yet, so I think that he's just going to continue to play his butt off and do everything he can to let that Texas team get in. Obviously, the loss of Will Fuller hurts, but with Fuller not being out there, it might allow him to, or might force him to have to run more.
Yeah.
So maybe he gets rushing touchdowns and rushing yards. But I have Deshaun Watson.
I'm gonna go with the safe pick, Mahomes. I just think too many weapons. They're playing Denver. Denver don't have too much to play for, so they'll probably throw it around him. He might get a rushing touchdown potentially.
Okay, and then for my first running back, this is a guy who I actually had drafted with my 8th overall pick, and traded him. I regret it, but he was out for most of the year. But Nick Chubb, and I know that he shares time in Cleveland with Kareem Hunt, but Chubb is the first, second, and often third down back. Hunt is usually a red zone back because of his size. He's a little bigger than Chubb. But Chubb's a hard runner. He's a downhill runner. And it's almost like, I don't think I've ever watched a game that he's not had like a long outburst of a run. It's really common for him to do that. And the Titans, the matchup this week is great. The Titans have allowed an average of 25 and a quarter of points to running backs this year, which puts them at the 26th ranked rush defense for fantasy purposes. So I like Chubb in a favorable matchup this week.
I go with an easy pick again. Dalvin Cook. They're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they get out to a lead, but not too big of a lead for them to pull him. Obviously, he's coming off an injury against the Panthers, but I still think he has big breakout potential against the Jaguars. And my RB2 is going to be Austin Eckler. He's on my lineup, my favorite player, and I think he's going to get a lot of pass-catching opportunities against the Patriots defense.
I love Eckler, but I'm obviously going to choose Cook as well. Derrick Henry would be somebody else who you guys would expect us to choose, maybe an Alvin Kamara. Kamara had a slow week last week, and his stock is going to continue to drop for the rest of this year with Hill at quarterback.
Because he takes some running opportunities from
him. And Hill isn't going to throw it, the 30 to 40 times a game that Breeze will as well. Also, Latavius Murray was great last week.
Yeah, he's a good short yardage back. Probably better than Kamara at that.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to have a hard time taking Dalvin Cook against the 28th ranked rush defense for this season in Jacksonville. He's just way too good. He averages 26 points a game. And then that leads to my first receiver, another Viking coming out of quarantine, Adam Thielen. The Jacksonville Jaguars pass defense is also one of the worst. And I can tell you exactly what it is if I look here.
25th.
Yeah, he's on Hank's team. Yeah, 25th. So I'm going to take Adam Thielen. I think Justin Jefferson had his chance to shine last week. He did okay, but he didn't do well enough for him to be like the main target guy again this week. So I think Thielen is going to have a great week.
My wide receiver one, another easy choice, Devontae Adams. He's playing Philly. I think Philly will keep it close enough for Rodgers to keep airing it out into the second half. And who better than Devontae Adams? He's a total stud.
I totally forgot about him. I wasn't even thinking about him. But see, this pick isn't that bad though. I have Tyreek Hill, and he's projected 20 points this week. Last week he absolutely torched the Bucs, and I was gonna win my game last week, but when a player that you're playing against has 43 points in the first quarter, that's usually a sign that you'll lose. So I ended up losing that game because of Tyreek, and I think that he's one of those players that you can't really make a game plan for, because
they can do so many things with him. Put him in the backfield,
and he's just so fast. Doesn't matter who's guarding him, he's gonna blow by him. So I have Hill as my second wide receiver,
and then I have Keenan Allen as my second. He's a great pass catcher. He's playing New England. Herbert will get it to him. It's weird putting Eckler and him in the lineup together, but both of them get at least 5 catches, and Keenan Allen can get like 10 to 15 catches if he needs to.
It shocks me this guy still isn't talked about, but James Robinson, he had 28 points last week. It kind of flew under the radar because there were tons of players with massive games last week. But he plays the Vikings this week. They are right in the middle with the 15th ranked rush defense. But he played Cleveland the previous week, who was in the top 10 in fantasy points allowed, and he got put up 28 on him. He averages over 20 touches a game, and he's guaranteed to get you 15 or more because of the amount of touches he gets. Mm-hmm. But also the matchup is the most favorable one he's had in 3 weeks, and I think that he will show out once more.
My flex, especially in a full point per reception league is Adam Thielen. Justin Jefferson has had a few huge games. Thielen coming off a week of rest with it being on the COVID list, and I think Justin Jefferson takes some attention away from Thielen's side because Thielen's still a top 10 receiver in the NFL.
All right, and then it's Kelsey.
I got Waller.
Okay, yeah, well, I thought you.
Broncos have a good tight end defense.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I just think Kelsey's too good.
Waller's playing the Jets. I think it'll actually be a pretty close game. I think he's going to need some big red zone catches, and I think
I don't really
he will
think
get open, get him.
Raiders are that good, so
They're
that could
not.
be a good game. And then kicker, I'm gonna go with my kicker and my defense. I'm Tyler Bass. He plays. I know that kicker matchups really don't matter, but he's the 5th ranked kicker this year, and he plays on a Monday night against San Francisco defense. That's pretty good. So I'm hoping that Allen is definitely going to get his guys down the field, but I'm hoping that maybe it'll result in a lot of field goals, and then I'll just go straight to my defense. I have the Chiefs defense. They're playing the Broncos, who are the 2nd worst offensive fantasy team this year.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs are the 8th ranked fantasy defense this year. So they've actually played well, which was a big issue last year, is even though they won the Super Bowl, everybody was talking about how bad their defense was. But they have really improved, and I think that they'll play well.
And my kicker in defense, I was going to pick Young Hoku as my kicker, but I'm playing him this week. So I'm going to go Jason Sanders, the Dolphins kicker, who's playing Cincinnati, whose defense isn't the worst, but they allow a lot of field goals and a lot of touchdowns. So I think he's a safe 10-plus point guy. And then defense, also the Dolphins. Obviously Cincinnati has their backup quarterback. He turns it over a lot. And I think they might get some defensive scores, hopefully.
For sure.
Some points.
All right, guys, those are our perfect lineups for the week, and we'll see you in the next segment. All right, welcome to the 3rd segment of the day. We are going to do our NFL picks for this weekend. There was no Thursday night game, so all games are Sunday, Monday, and 1 Tuesday night game. And I will start first. The first game on slate is Saints-Falcons, and I have the Saints.
I'm going with the Falcons with the upset at home.
All right, and then Lions-Bears, I have the Lions.
I'm going with the Bears, also at home, defending Soldier Field.
Browns-Titans, I have the Titans.
I got the Browns.
Bengals-
Baker's going to show what he's made of.
All right. I like the Browns. I'm a fan of the Browns, but I just think the Titans are good. And then Bengals, Dolphins, I have the Dolphins.
Dolphins big.
And then Jaguars, Vikings, I have the Vikings.
I also have the Vikings. Thielen's going to destroy the Jaguars.
I hope he does. Raiders, Jets, I think that'll actually be a war of a game, but I think the Raiders will win.
Jets are getting their first win, man.
Wow. Okay. And then Colts, Texans, I have the Texans.
I have the Colts.
Rams, Cardinals, I have the Rams.
I have the Cardinals.
Giants, Seahawks, I have the Giants.
I have the Seahawks.
I think the Giants are going to beat them. I think the
I
Seahawks
know.
defense isn't.
I think it'll be a close game, but
Yeah.
let Russ cook. I mean, down the stretch, he's going to win it.
Packers, Eagles, it won't even be a game. Packers, and
Packers big.
then let's see, Patriots, Chargers, Patriots.
I got the Chargers.
Watch out for the Patriots; they're gonna make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And Steelers football team. I have the Chiefs, Broncos. I have the Chiefs, obviously.
I'm going to go with the Chiefs
And
as
then
well.
Steelers football team. I have the Steelers.
I have the Steelers, but it's going to be a shootout. I think Gibson's going to get a lot of fantasy points. I think Big Ben's going to get a lot of fantasy points, but I think the Steelers come away with a victory.
Okay. And then Bills 49ers, I think this will be a phenomenal game. The 49ers are looking like they may even try to make a late playoff push, which would be extremely unlikely, but I'm rooting for them. But I think the Bills will win.
I think the 49ers cover and the 49ers win.
Wow. Okay. And then Cowboys Ravens, I'm taking the Cowboys.
I'm taking the Ravens, man.
Ah.
Trace McSorley. How can you pick against that?
I love Trace McSorley, but it looks like he's going to be at the helm on Tuesday
You
night.
saw what he did against the Steelers defense.
Yeah, but I just believe that the Cowboys can win. I think Andy Dalton is a better backup quarterback than Trace McSorley.
Yeah,
And
he's a
I also think that with the division still as close as it is, the Cowboys are like the Ravens can get in the playoffs as a wild card even if they happen to lose this week. The Cowboys' only way of getting in is a win in their division.
Mm-hmm.
So each game is important to them. So I think that they win this week.
I think the Ravens pull it out. After they've been getting embarrassed the last few weeks, I think they finally get a win.
Yeah,
It's an easy opponent.
They need one.
They really do.
All right, guys, that's our NFL Sunday picks. We'll see you in the next segment.
Welcome to our Bet of the Day segment for NFL Football Sunday. You can start it.
All right, the Texans are at home against the Colts. I picked them to win outright, so obviously I'm going to have to pick them to beat the spread. They're favored to lose by 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they will win the game outright, just like we did in our picks. So that's the team that I will pick to beat the spread and also win outright.
I got the Jets +8 at home. Adam Gase fighting for his job. Obviously, he's tanking for Trevor, but you still want to get some wins in there. And I think they're going to keep it close against the Raiders. They might lose, but they'll keep it close. And then the Blake Clark bet of the day is the Tennessee Titans favored by 5.5. He said they're going to cover and they're going to win by a lot against the Browns at home.
All right, want to give a shout out because this video is going to release before 5:30. ESPNU. You're going to see some good football tonight. You're going to see what Power 5 football looks like. Sunbelt, best conference in football. Coastal Carolina, go Chanticleers. They are favored to lose by 11. That is disrespectful.
That's awful.
BYU hasn't played anybody all year long. Coastal is going to show what they're made of tonight, and they're going to dominate.
They're going to
Coastal
destroy
to cover the spread and beat them by 50. Woo! All right, that wraps up our 4th episode. We're going to get back on track here in the near future, posting twice a week like we did at the beginning of the show. Keep in mind to please keep staying tuned. We know that come Christmas time, a lot of the stuff that we're asking for from Santa Claus is some new equipment that we can use. We're going to be able to get equipment to where it can be on Spotify and the podcast app that's made through the App Store and Apple. And also, we have some cool guests. As many of you guys may know, Jalen Walker, who is a star athlete at Salisbury High School. We're going to have him on our show soon. We've been in talks with him. And then there are several athletes that we know that are either former pro players, former Division I college players, and we're in talks with them as well. It's going to get even better than it already is, which I don't even know how that's... Yeah, I mean, if this is what it is, oh my gosh. It's going to be the best show of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Logan Paul, we're coming for you. Our podcast is going to be better than yours. This is going to be the best podcast in the world. You know, at the beginning of his podcast, he says, "Welcome back to Impulsive, the best podcast in the world."
No.
Now he's going to be saying, "Welcome back to Impulsive, the second best podcast in the world," because the $1 Million Show is going to be the best. We'll see you guys in the next episode.